Hello, everybody, and this is absolutely incredible right now. Welcome to you all. It's going to be an excellent stream. Please, everyone, welcome Evan to our live stream. Evan is the co-founder of the biggest expo in the year for flight simulation, FlightSimExpo, and of the FlightSim Association. So, everyone, make Evan welcome and chat. Evan, it's nice to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Hello to one cohesive healer there in the chat, and to you, and I guess good morning, because it's what, about 6 in the morning where you are right now,
It
huh?
is, yeah, it is very early.
Well, thank you for getting up early on my account. I appreciate that.
No worries. So as said before in the pin comment, that if you have any questions, I've got a little form there, submit them in. We have quite a few in already, so thank you all for your support. I really do appreciate it. Also, live chat's there, so just comment in the chat. I'll see them all. I have it open as well, as long as the call. Morris, we're welcome every afternoon. Yeah, from England, we have a afternoon from Morris. Thank you, Morris. Hopefully you'll enjoy the stream. Okay, so I guess what I found with all you, with my community, like some of you don't really know about what this huge expo is. So there is a chance for you all to learn, because trust me, it is absolutely incredible what the team there are doing. And to have the co-founder online is also, it is absolutely amazing. So perhaps we can start off the stream with a little intro about the expo.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you for having me and for talking about FlightSimExpo. The content creator folks like yourself really are who help us spread the word about this, because it is a little bit different than what we see every day, right? It's not a FlightSim add-on, it's not an airplane, it's not a senior release, and so people are kind of like, well, what is an expo, right? What is a show? So think about this as probably this year the world's biggest conference and trade show centered all around flight simulation. There are normally, I think, 4 of these that happen around the world. There's one in the UK at Cosford that typically goes every year around this time that I don't believe is happening this year. One in the Netherlands, ours in North America, typically in the United States, and then there's one which you probably are familiar with in Australia as well, the FlightSimExpo that's happening, I think, this year maybe with one of the big air shows that's down there. Is that's what you've heard as well, right? The Oz one, I think it's still going,
Yeah.
is it?
I believe it is still going. Yeah, so
Yeah.
4 in the year. Yeah.
And so yeah, it's really a conference and trade show that's designed to talk all about flight simulation. So you'll have 2 big parts to the show. One is the exhibit hall. So we've got more than 30 exhibitors that are coming to the show that'll be demonstrating their latest products. We're really focused on hardware this year. So pretty much all the big flight sim hardware makers, from Thrustmaster to Honeycomb to the new ones, Turtle Beach, they're all coming to the show with brand new hardware that you'll be able to actually try and get your hands on for the first time. Virtual reality will be a big part of that, and then a whole bunch of, like, sort of, I'll call them indie developers, people who kind of are doing this stuff out of their basements or their garage with 3D printing, that are putting together really cool, like, physical units, whether that be a GPS or an FMS add-on that you can actually sit on your desk and have as part of your setup. And then alongside that the trade show floor, we also have a conference component where there's more than 30 speakers coming out to talk about everything flight sim. So you'll have people talking about, how do I sim better? How do you tweak your computer to get the best performance? You'll have developers come in there to share big announcements like Thrustmaster and X-Plane are doing. And then we've just got regular simmers. So Sarah, who's visually impaired, is coming to talk about how you can fly a simulator if you're blind. We've got someone from the Air Force coming in to talk about how they use the same version of Prepared that we do to train fighter pilots in the US, and an accident investigator from the US government talking about how they've used flight simulation in recreating accidents investigations like they did with the Miracle on the Hudson flight several years ago. So all of this stuff is going on throughout the weekend on September 24th to 26th. That happens in San Diego. You can access it in person by coming out to the show. You can also participate online only if you wish. So folks like you who are in Australia, who can't leave the country right now, or who can't get into the US right now, there's a way to participate online as well. I'm sure we'll get into that, but for those of you who want to sneak peek ahead, you can find all the details at FlightSimExpo.com.
Awesome. Thank you
I
for
see you
that.
posted that in the
I
chat, or your
have.
bot actually posted in the chat.
So links in chat, FlightSimExpo.com. Check it out. There's a whole ton of info on that. You can look at some images, you can look at the speakers and the plan of the whole expo. It truly is a remarkable event. Hopefully now that a lot of you can join the event, so check it out. Online tickets, so are they, I believe they are free to buy now, aren't they? Online tickets.
So for the online ticket, it's $15,
Yep.
and we're just asking you to help to cover the costs of doing the live
Awesome.
streaming. So obviously, the folks who are there at the show, the speakers who are there, we have to pay for a camera, for lighting, and then that has to all get streamed out to the internet with good quality audio. So, we couldn't just put somebody in the, front row with a camera, right? Because we want to make sure that this is a really great quality presentation. So we're just
100%.
asking for people to help support that. So that
Yeah.
$15, that covers access to all 30 seminars across all 3 days of the show. It also gives you access to this thing called Whova, which is an app that you can download. It's also a website you can visit on your computer. And that basically lets you chat with everyone at the show, whether you're in person or virtual. So there's a chat going on. You can actually chat directly with developers. You can access show specials, giveaways, and the whole schedule, kind of everything goes through the app. So that's what you get for those of you who wish to participate online only. Because again, we do realize not everyone can come to the US. Not everyone feels comfortable coming out to a show like this at this point in time. And so for those who prefer to kind of hang out and do it from home, you still have that option. And all those seminars that are happening, of course, you'll be able to watch them live. You'll also be able to have access to the recordings on demand to watch them at any time. So you won't have to get up at 6 in the morning again to watch all this stuff.
Amazing. So right now I have a little slideshow of some photos of your expo. So everyone in chat, have a look at them. There's actually a ton of goodie bags right now on one of them. Looks amazing. So
yeah,
I see you have a lot of sponsors, a lot of supporters. So just a question here I got. So how do you get all the devs on board? Like, do you have to give them a pitch, or do they come to you sort of for this?
I wish they would come to me. No, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of building relationships and really working on those relationships over time. So it starts with us sending out emails. Typically, we have a mailing list that probably has about 600 different FlightSim developers, which a lot of people don't even know there are that many. And I'm sure that's not even everybody. So we'll send out several emails to them. I then personally reach out to about probably 200 or 300 of them. So over the course of 6 months lead up to the show, I would typically send about 1,000 emails to people across various time zones and different subjects, all trying to say, hey, here's what the show is all about. Feel free to come out and talk about it with us. And then, it doesn't even stop at that. So then I'll be going into Discords, or I'll be going into Facebook, and I'll be talking to them directly. I call people and really try to get the word out. We're so grateful to the amazing developers we have in the community, because so many of them are so supportive of this. For a developer, especially someone, let's say like TFDI Design, who'll be there this year with their 717 that they released years ago now. They do a bunch of other stuff, which is kind of cool that a lot of people don't know about. But for them, and I think most developers, they're not really going to this show looking to make a bunch of money, because that doesn't really happen. Like, this isn't about, I want to go there and I'm going to sell $10,000 worth of stuff. This is, I'm going to go there and actually meet the community and get people to come up and talk face to face and share their feedback and their thoughts around my products. For someone like Xplane, who's making a huge announcement on Saturday that we think is going to probably be the next version of Xplane, although I don't know that for sure. That is something that they're really excited to be able to do, because it won't just be like, okay, here's a picture, you can look at it. They're going to demonstrate it on the stage, and you'll be able to see the reaction of everybody in the room live when their founder, Austin Meyer, is there saying, this is what the next generation of X-Plane is going to look like. I just think that stuff is really cool, and it's something we don't see a whole lot of in flight simulation, because it's hard to get everyone together.
100%. And seeing those videos of those trees and the new lighting model, it's really exciting right now. So to have that on stage and probably asking questions too, I imagine, that would be incredible to have Austin there. I think that will be a highlight of everyone's time, 100%. Brian Avia, thank you for your question here. Great to hear from you, Evan. Are there any new players coming into the sim market? So I think there definitely are a few. So do you have any new stores set up this year?
Yeah, I mean, certainly we've seen this just tremendous increase in activity in the flight sim world over the past several months. And so a lot of those new developers, they still kind of need to get established before they would come to a show like this. So someone like Phoenix Simulations, who don't even have a product out yet, or one of the, freeware guys that have kind of come out, like Working Title and the FlyByWire team, I think we'll see them come to the show probably in a future year as they get a little bit more established and sort of familiar with how the community works, and they get a little bit of budget behind them. But we got several people who are relatively relatively new to the flight sim space coming out to the show this year, which is obviously really exciting for us. So Yaw VR, which is announcing a new product that we think is going to be at the show. They'll be someone that we haven't ever heard of before. Turtle Beach, who made a big announcement with a new flight simulation yoke that no one has ever been able to try. You'll be able to see and try that at the show. So they're obviously brand new to our simulation space. And there's a whole bunch of these sort of smaller hardware developers, people like Flight Sim Builder, Altimeter Motives, Matrix Flight Simulators. These are people that we've not really seen before because they're very, very small time individuals, but they make some amazing products. So it'll be really neat to be able to see them. When you talk about some of the different organizations that we've seen pop up in the past, I think you're going to see those folks probably coming to our show in like 2022 and 2023 as travel gets a little bit easier and as it gets hopefully a little bit more back to what we considered normal in 2019 days. But I think just given how flight simulation is growing and how Microsoft Flight Sim has just brought so many people in, I mean, we almost see like a new developer coming up kind of every couple of weeks at a very minimum. So Brian, I think that's a great question. I absolutely think we're going to see plenty more people like Phoenix Simulations kind of just crop up out of nowhere with some amazing stuff. And that's really exciting for us as a flight sim community. What do you think?
I'm the same there. Like, this new sim has just blown it up, hasn't it? Blown the whole market open. I've got a lot of sceneries for it. Every one of them, the quality is next level of the developing now. It truly is. I think it was quoted the next gen simulator. It's on its way, I think, after the update. But the new developers and new people coming in, even on Xbox, that is a huge turning point in our industry right now. They have people on a console join us in multiplayer. It is incredible. Welcome, Parasite. Welcome aboard. But to get as many people as we can to expand our reach, our network, I think it is incredible. So, do you have any how would it work for the Xbox? So, do you have any? Are you gonna cater for some of the people on console this year? Is that a bit different to usual?
Yeah, so there's actually a few developers and the attendees that are coming that will actually have the Xbox there. And that's kind of interesting. Like for me, I don't own an Xbox, so I've not been able to actually try the sim. I understand that the experience is supposed to be the same, but I'm actually looking forward to being able to try it. So Turtle Beach at their booth and Honeycomb also at their booth will both have Xbox consoles there so people can actually try the Xbox out. And then they'll also have their compatible controls with the Xbox. And yeah, I totally think that's
nice.
amazing to see Flight Simulator on a console. Certainly never thought we would see the day for that. And it's just a really interesting time to be in flight sim. Like we've got so much development happening at the simulator level, at the add-ons level, and I imagine that this is just going to continue to grow our entire community and our hobby. It's been a tough year, I think, for a lot of developers like who might have been established. So I think of, and not speaking for them, just speaking about them, people like Rex or Active Sky that have kind of been around forever, but they've been very prepared P3D focused. Now you're like, well, where are they going to go, right? Because it's certainly been a big transition for them. And we've seen how PMDG, kind of gave us a 5-year roadmap of what their plans were at FlightSimExpo 2018. And that roadmap is completely out the window now because of the new flight simulator that's come out and their focus on that. And so watching this and being able to see all the stuff going on in our community right now is so cool. It's just an awesome time to be a simmer.
It is, and it's amazing how we can get some of these devs, like even Active Sky, I don't know if they plan to go on MSFS, but these developers are now so prominent, like out of nowhere. They just appear. So it's great to see them be able to develop PMDG as haven't even got an aircraft for it yet, but already it's the big talking point of MSFS. PMDG, how long until it's out? What would it be like? Pricing.
Yeah.
It's incredible. High Flyer, I once flew a Qantas 767 simulator. We have full airline sims too. We'll answer that one.
Yes. So Scholarkey Electronics, if you look them up, they make an A320 and I think maybe a 737 as well, but certainly an A320 full cockpit in Orlando in 2019. They brought that whole thing, and you might have a picture of it. I'm not sure if it was in one of those ones that you showed, but they literally had a full A320 cockpit that you could sit in and fly at our show. And in 2019, also Redbird, which is a big maker of commercial flight simulator stuff that they use in a lot of flight schools for professional training, they actually had a full motion Warbird simulator there. So you could literally, it's to climb up this thing on a ladder
It's a lot of fun.
to get into it, and you could actually fly a full motion sim right on the show floor. This year may be a little bit different because it's obviously more challenging for people to do travel and stuff like that. Scholarchy is planning to be at the show, assuming that they can sort out all the travel stuff to be there. So I think they'll probably have that full cockpit setup. And then you're also going to see some really cool stuff at the Thrustmaster booth. They're announcing a brand new product for the civil aviation space. It'll be the first place anywhere in the world you can actually try it. And they've got some stuff from Next Level Racing. So you're going to see both like the real scale, full-size cockpits, but you'll also see the flight sim equivalent of that, stuff that you could actually buy and have in your house, which is really neat.
Nice to have a photo of it right up there now. So there it is. How good is that? That is insane. That is really, really good. I also see there's some VR headsets as well. So is VR sort of like another thing to Expo this year?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in fact, virtual reality, the only place I've ever tried it has been at this show because I don't own a headset. And if you haven't tried it yet, like putting on the goggles and experiencing simulation in that way is amazing. So I'm really looking forward to trying Microsoft Flight Sim in VR because I haven't seen that myself yet, other than just, on videos and stuff. So be able to actually try that is going to be very cool. A bunch of our exhibitors always bring VR headsets to the show. I don't know everyone, but for sure X-Plane will have it because they're running their annual landing competition, which last year was done in virtual reality. So you'll expect to see that there. Of course, Yaw VR, which is all about that. They'll have one. There's a group called Project Einstein VR, they make custom simulators, and obviously they're going to have virtual reality as part of that display. So there are going to be plenty of opportunities if you're looking to try out virtual reality, get tips on it, think about how it could be implemented in your setup, and try a few different headset options. That's absolutely going to be possible at the show this year.
Really cool. Yeah, I love VR. I haven't tried it personally, but it just looks really cool. So
you need to.
yeah,
It is amazing.
I definitely have to try it. I thought that over there. Yeah, question. Welcome, Burko Fly. Welcome back. We have seen the FMC for the Boeing aircraft. Do you know if there's one for the Airbus? Oh, the mech dude. Do you mean the Zebo one, Burko? For explain and prepared. Yeah. I personally haven't heard about an Airbus one coming out.
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure if he's asking like about a physical like unit or if he's asking about more like the online version because maybe there's that one that Aerosoft sells. I forget what it's called, but they came out with like a Boeing FMS I think a little while ago. I mean, there's stuff out there. If you want to buy it, it exists, right? So the thing that was cool about the Aerosoft one, which isn't made by them, but they sell it. The thing that is cool about that is that you can basically buy it at a consumer price point. It might be like $400 or $500, and you can have it on your desk, and it's plug and play with the simulators. I think that's really cool. That stuff, I can't think of one that's like that for the Airbus that's at that price point.
Me too.
However, if you're looking for an actual professional quality one, those are totally available. So I don't know if you want to tell me which continent you're on, like if you're in virtual reality, sorry, if you're in North America or if you're in Europe, I can give you some recommendations for places that you can find them, but they certainly exist. And someone like Scholarchy Electronics would be the place I would probably say if you're in Europe to go and look at because they actually have a full scale A320 cockpit that they brought to our show that obviously had the MCDUs in it. And if you're in North America, the place to look is called Flight Deck Solutions. So I would say Scholarchy in Europe and Flight Deck Solutions in North America are the places that you can go to find that stuff. Again, though, it's not really at the price point, I don't think, for your average consumer.
Yeah.
And then the other thing to look at would probably be, and I forget the name as well, you might know or we can look it up, that there's someone that makes an iPad app that you can basically use a touchscreen on and you can convert that into an FMS. I think some of the airplane developers, I want to say the FS Labs like has that functionality built in, I want to say, for P3D.
I believe they do, yeah. I have a friend who's in prepared. Yeah. Evan, tell us your tips about machine setup and graphics card. I'm looking to
you know what?
upgrade.
That is a great question for a person named Ian Hoffer, who is doing two presentations with us on Friday the 24th at FlightSimExpo. And he is a computer expert. He is also a real world like technology technician guy. So he does stuff like at big shows on audiovisual, smoke, lighting, that kind of thing. And so he's going to bring that into a presentation talking about how can you enhance your home setup. So whether that be actually putting a smoke machine in so you could simulate a failure and like like there's a bunch of smoke in your cockpit, or whether that's just doing something like putting motion things on your seat so you actually feel the turbulence as you're flying. He's going to be talking about that, but he's also going to be doing a Q&A on PC specs, hardware, FPS tweaks, and all that kind of stuff. So if you're coming to the show, you'll be able to just put your hand up and ask a
Oh,
question.
wow.
And if you're participating online, you'll be able to send that question in, much like we're doing here. So
Yeah.
I don't know enough to be able to give you a good answer, Burko, or sorry, it was High Flyer Greg. But Greg, if you come to the online show on the 24th and look for Ian Hoffer's 2 presentations, he's going to be all over that, and he is much, much more knowledgeable than I am on the subject. He'll be able to actually give you a good answer.
There you go. We're going to have smoke in our homes pretty soon, everyone. So get your smoke machines out. We're all going to be having airline trainings at our home now. But Mehmet, welcome back. Are you a developer? Evan is the co-founder.
No.
Yeah.
No,
Not
I
a
don't.
developer.
I'm not talented enough to make anything other than just put a show together. So no, I don't do any FlightSim development. I certainly know a lot of the developers. I talk to them fairly regularly. I like to think I have a pretty good handle on what are some of the things that they are, loving, and what are the things that they have challenges about with the various simulators. I kind of have a bit of inside information as to how that side of the community works, but I'm certainly not a developer. There's no way I'm talented enough to make anything. Nobody would ever want to use it if I was to put out an airplane, that's for sure.
Same with me. Like, I was trying to do a scenery, like I just gave up. It is like, the amount of work that goes into sceneries is so underestimated.
Yeah.
And
then the amount of people who are doing like amazing quality work, like totally for free. Like I just saw there's I think a London Stansted that came out. It was like
There
so
is.
good that FS Elite wrote an article on it.
Yeah.
And I think that's just really cool. I mean, you can go to like flightsim.to for MSFS, obviously, or xplane.org for Xplane. And there's just like literally millions of freeware files that are absolutely amazing quality. We're just so fortunate in FlightSim to have so many cool, talented people.
100%, yeah. A high fly, I think that's most coming from Captain Canada. Oh boy. No Morris, no, he's better than a developer, he's the co-founder of the Expo. The logistics of getting the Expo organized will be huge. How has COVID changed that in the pandemic, and what are you doing in San Diego? High fly,
Yeah, I mean, we could.
Yeah, that's a good question.
We could do a whole podcast on that and what it's been like. So, firstly, I should just say I've been very fortunate through all this. I've taken it very seriously, but I've been healthy. My family's been healthy, and I know there's so many people whose lives have been, totally upended, destroyed, businesses, and everything else that's going on. So we're very lucky in FlightSim that we have such great tools to be able to do stuff like this digitally and to be able to kind of hang out as a community. But we do know it's so important to do in-person events, and there's nothing at all like being able to look Austin Meyer, who's the creator of X-Plane, in the eye and ask him your question, or just see how passionate he is about this, or be able to go out and actually try hardware. So that's why we wanted to bring this show back this year. We are taking COVID very seriously. We're in California, which is also taking it very seriously. It's actually one of the highest vaccination places in the United States right now, which is good news for us, and it has a fairly low case count by comparison to other parts of the country. We've just published all of our COVID safety information on the website, so you can go to FlightSimExpo.com and click COVID-19 info. But generally speaking, what we're trying to do is keep everyone as safe as we possibly can. So we're doing all the things that you'd expect, putting some more space between the booths. We're strongly recommending that people wear masks. There's a requirement from the state that you have to be fully vaccinated to attend this kind of thing, or you have to provide a negative test. And so I guess the big challenge with all of COVID for us, to answer the question, has just been uncertainty. And so even today, where we're basically a month out of the show, even today, I can't say for sure, well, something couldn't change and we may have to cancel the entire event and go online only. And I can't say for sure that every exhibitor is still going to be there. I've talked to them and they're all saying, yeah, I'm planning to be there. Yeah, I'm planning to be there. But it seems like things can change at the drop of a hat these days. And so we've responded to that uncertainty by just being as flexible as we can. So we've done a lot of work with our venue partners to be able to allow us to say to you as attendees, there's no cost if you choose to cancel your registration or change to online only, or if you were planning to come online and now you're like, no, I want to come to the show, there's no extra cost for you to make those changes. Hotel bookings are fully refundable up to 48 hours prior to check-in. And fortunately, in travel right now, you can basically book any flight and get either a free change or a free refund depending on the airline. And so we're just saying to people, we don't know, but here's what we do know. and let's really work hard to make it as flexible and easy as possible for people so nobody is sort of forced into a situation. If you're comfortable coming to the show, please come. We'd love to see you. If you're not comfortable coming to the show or you change your mind, you don't want to travel, then you can also participate online this year. And I think that's really the best thing we can do is be totally open and transparent about what we're doing and be as flexible as we can. So folks have questions about that. If you want to know how many attendees are set up to register, I mean, you can literally ask me anything. There's
Yeah,
no
cool.
secrets here. We're trying to just do stuff that makes sense for the community.
Sounds good. And yeah, it will be a huge challenge for you, like organizing that huge event right now. But so far, yeah, it's been excellent. I love your communication, your involvement with the community and other creators online, even with I saw your sharing with XP. That was really good as well. So all your engagement is helping to promote this amazing initiative, which is fantastic. Question, who's this? At night. What is the latest news about X-Plane 12, and do you think it will stand with MSFS? That is a good question, and definitely one of the biggest talking points in the world right now, in the sim world.
Yeah, so we were really excited to be able to do a webinar with X-Plane a couple of weeks ago where they actually presented live from Oshkosh, which is the biggest air show in the world, and they demonstrated a few new videos, a few new screenshots, and they wouldn't officially call it X-Plane 12, but I think a lot of people kind of took that
Yeah.
that's what it was that they were showing. So the real big X-Plane announcement is coming at the show on Saturday the 25th. I'll get the time correct here as well.
Yep.
So this is at 2 p.m. Pacific time, so California time, GMT -7. They are going to be on stage in California to basically give us that update. Now, this is me speculating. I do not have any information. I am not telling stuff I shouldn't. My personal guess is they may show a new version of X-Plane. This is not based on anything other than a guess. And I have a feeling that if they can, they would love for people to be able to try it. I do not know if that's what's going to happen. They haven't told me anything, but I think you're going to see, if not that, certainly a lot of great new videos, screenshots. And what Austin said on that webinar is he wants to be able to show all the stuff they've been working on kind of end to end and let you actually see what that's going to look like. So I think at the end of that presentation, we're all going to have a really good idea of if it's X-Plane 12 or if it's not X-Plane 12, what it is going to look like and how it's going to work. Austin gave some great information in that webinar, so you can go look at that on our YouTube channel or on our association website, FlightSimAssociation.com. Also on our YouTube channel, there's some preview videos and screenshots that X-Plane had given to us a couple of weeks ago that are really cool to look at. I think it's going to be very different from Microsoft Flight Sim. For example, they're not doing the whole streaming in of data kind of thing. They're taking a bit of a different approach on that. So I think it's going to be a really interesting sort of second or other simulator from Microsoft Flight Sim. And Austin was very clear about that. He's like, look, I don't want to copy what they're doing because there's no point.
Yeah.
That's already there. I want to create something that's unique and interesting. And I think that sim, whether it's called X-Plane 12 or whether it's just some updates to X-Plane 11 or whatever they want to call it, I do think it's going to be a really, really great sim. And I think a lot of people are going to continue, as they do today, to use more than one simulator. So I don't feel like you're going to see, everyone shift to one platform or another. I think a lot of people are going to continue to say, well, this platform is great for this platform is great for this, and we kind of use them both interchangeably.
Yeah, and even that brings down to the point of with this new simulator, I'm sure it will push other devs to improve their product. So even if people in chat, I know quite a few of you aren't a fan of it, don't really like what they've done, but in any way, if with any sim you have, prepared's probably going to go up now. X-Plane's dropped like a huge, like there's really cool tree videos and lighting models and new clouds and weather engines. So no matter what you think of it, having a new sim in the market right now is exactly what we need, and I think that is really good. What's next? Brian again. I am renovating and want to set up in a flight studio. Will there be a session on how to set up?
Yeah, several of the presentations are going to be talking about how do you set up a home simulator, what are the recommendations for giving you the best possible performance in the simulator and your computer, what type of hardware should you use. We've got all of that stuff covered through various presentations happening throughout the weekend. So if you're able to come to the show, obviously you'll be able to take part in those in person, ask your questions, put your hand up, chat directly with the experts. And if not, you can take care of all that online as well. So there will certainly be some great advice for how to set up a home simulator, and for a lot of the sort of tips and tricks that people will gather over the course of years and years of simming. They'll be on stage to share that with you, and yes, that's all going to be available at the show.
Nice. So there you go, Brian. So yep, there will be a lot of talk about that. Welcome back, Just QT. Will real life liveries come to Xbox for MSFS? Good question.
So I obviously I don't represent Microsoft,
Yeah.
Xbox, anything like that, so I can't speak for them. I can give you my own opinion on that, which
Yeah.
is I don't think they will. And the reason I think that is Microsoft, I believe, has sort of taken the position that they feel they need permission from the various airlines to be able to do stuff like that. And we've never seen in a Microsoft simulator, to my knowledge, real airline liveries. Like FSX had those made up ones like Orbit and
Yeah.
Pacifica and whatever else, right? So I think that's probably the reason, is just it gets really difficult with licensing and things like that. That being said, obviously we know that a lot of people like the guys at Project Megapack have just gone ahead and done that themselves. And so I'm sure you're going to see the third-party community keep on pumping out liveries. I know for a while Microsoft in their Discord had a thing where you could actually share that, and they decided to take that offline, I believe, because of sort of concerns around legality and things like that. So it would surprise me if we're going to see real airline liveries in the simulator, but anything is possible, and I certainly don't speak for Microsoft. It would really be cool. I know at one point they were
It
kind of
would.
teasing the idea of like putting in traffic, so you could actually see, if you sat at the like Heathrow Airport, you could actually see, using real world data, the flights taking off and landing. I don't know if that's still happening, or if that has been kind of pushed aside, but because of some legal concerns or whatever else. But I think that'd be really cool. Much like some of the add-ons, like I think there was one called Simple Traffic, and there's one that Just Flight makes as well for P3D and X-Plane. But I don't think anyone's done it really for Microsoft Flight Sim just yet.
Yep, there you go, Morris. And Morris says thanks. So thank you for that. We have another question. Will be interesting to see Sony and PlayStation come to the market. Yeah, it would, but the thing is, it is by Microsoft, so not. I think it might stay as an Xbox thing, but we can get Evan's thought on that as well.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see another platform developing another flight simulator for a console game. And I'm not sure I'm fully sold on the idea of Xbox either. I mean, I think it's great that we have it. I think it's great for our community. For me and the kind of flying that I do, I don't see myself sitting on the couch and playing a flight sim, because for me, it's more like I want to simulate real world procedures. I want my charts. I want my either virtual reality or my head tracking. And I think all that stuff, to be doing that on the couch with a controller is probably not what I would be interested in. What I do think is interesting, though, is it kind of costs like $2,500 to buy a really, really good flight sim rig. And if you load up the Xbox, which is a fraction of that price, you're actually getting really good performance. So I do think what some people might do is set up an Xbox on their desk and actually have the flight controls and a mouse and a keyboard. And instead of playing on the computer, you're playing on Xbox. But because it's on the desk, it kind of feels like a computer, and you're basically able to get all that performance for a fraction of the price. That won't work on VATSIM though.
Yes, it won't. And the other question as well, I got pre-filled out. There we go. So I believe VATSIM did state that they have no plans as of now to release that on Xbox. Just QT, would there be a global scenery for MSFS like Explain? Would there be a chance? Well, as Evan said before, Austin's gonna be talking about this during the Expo, so hopefully we get more from Austin, because he's a really passionate man. So seeing him talk and just stream on about seeing how excited he is about the future of X-Plane, something that you don't see anywhere else. Like on Twitter, you don't see that. You don't see his passion. But at the Expo, you really do, and that's why I love what you do.
Yeah, no, I think that's, that Explain session is going to be really interesting. They're actually doing 3 presentations across the course of the weekend, so definitely recommend that you check those out by visiting us at FlightSimExpo.com and registering, either for the online event or for the in-person one. I know there's also a question, I think, from that same person about VATSIM. Did you want to talk about that at all?
Yes, well, VATSIM, where is it? Oh, here we go.
Yeah, it was just a couple minutes ago about, I think, asking how you get connected to VATSIM. And I should say I'm a VATSIM controller. I love VATSIM. I think it's an amazing, amazing tool for the community. For people who are nervous about it or haven't started, you should not be nervous, and you should absolutely start flying on VATSIM if you 100%. Want to take this stuff seriously, and as long as you're prepared to do a little bit of homework as it goes to, speaking with air traffic control and airspace and procedures and things like that. I mean, it's not for everybody, right? If you're somebody who's a bit more of a casual simmer, you like the Microsoft Flight Sim multiplayer, you don't care so much for for air traffic control, that's great. And then obviously probably VATSIM's not for you. But if you're in that category of you want to simulate realistic operations, whether it be airlines or whether it be general aviation, I think VATSIM's a phenomenal tool. So I could just try to answer that question about getting connected.
Go ahead.
I think, generally speaking, the way VATSIM and other networks like Iveo and Pilot Edge will work is that you first spawn in your airplane, you go to a parking spot somewhere on the airport, not on a taxiway or a runway, not in the air, and then you open an app, which in VATSIM's case is called vPilot, and you simply use that app to connect to the network. And what that app does is it then shows all the other airplanes that are operating on the VATSIM network, much like a multiplayer server does in Microsoft FlightSim, and it allows you to communicate via voice in real time with the controllers. If you're flying in the air, it is possible and it is okay for you to connect mid-flight. Generally speaking, it's not the best thing to do because, of course, you can be right in the middle of a line of airplanes. But if that's the situation that you find yourself in, you can totally do that and then just give air traffic control a call if they're online as soon as you get up there and connect to the network. Hopefully that answers the question. And if there's anything else on VATSIM, I'm a huge fan of VATSIM, so I'm happy to talk about that for plenty of time as well.
Awesome. Yeah, it changed my whole experience, VATSIM. The realism it gives you, if anyone hasn't got it, please go ahead and get it. I got a link for XPRealistic in the chat and a little get started link. So go on the link, get started. Even if you are new to FlightSim, learn your airplane. But I gotta say, if you are going to join, do have I sure you have studied your airplane, know the control procedures. Because it is designed to be quite serious for the best realism, but also all the controllers have a lot of fun in there, so they'll always help you out. Will the next MSFS update support DX12?
No idea.
Yeah, no idea. Sorry about that. What do you expect to see from the future of X-Plane compared to Microsoft? We'll hear more about that in September, but I think from what we've seen, a few little trees and lighting models, it's come a long way. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a different simulator to what's available in Microsoft FlightSim, but I think it's going to be very popular as well. So X-Plane has always focused itself on being the most realistic simulator when it comes to flight dynamics, when it comes to the systems that are modeled in the default airplanes, and I think that's going to continue as it does today. From Austin's words on the webinar when he and I talked, his words were basically X-Plane 11 looks very dated. So in my view, I think what you're going to see in X-Plane, whether it's called 12 or whether it's just called whatever, I think you're going to see a much nicer, much more vibrant, much more interesting and engaging model. Seasons are going to be there. Volumetric clouds are going to be there. Weather is going to be modeled in a probably a little bit better way than it is today. So I think you're just going to see it basically kind of brought up to the standard of what we've come to see in Microsoft FlightSim. Because there won't be scenery streaming, I don't think you're necessarily by default going to have the same level of visual fidelity from up high that you do in Microsoft FlightSim, but I'm sure the third-party community, as they do today with ortho scenery and things like that, I'm sure you're going to see that stuff all continue on in the future. And X-Plane has been very vocal about making sure that backwards compatibility is there. So theoretically, the add-ons we have for that sim today, those should be just as usable in whatever this next version is going to be called.
There you go, excellent. Brian, again, I've got to say thank you all for your questions. You've got a lot in chat today. Is the online session for is it a fee per day, or do you pay for individual sessions you want only?
So for FlightSimExpo's online registration, it's one single price, which is $15, and that covers access to everything. So all 30 sessions over all 3 days, you only need to pay once, and then you're covered for everything, which we think is, an incredible value. It's less than $1 a session. It's 50 cents a session, actually. So, and again, that just helps us cover the costs of running the show, putting the staging there, paying for the microphones and all that stuff to give you an excellent quality presentation. So that one single payment, that gets you access to watch everything live, and you'll be able to have access to watch it all on demand after the show by just grabbing any of the recordings. Because of the way our schedule works, particularly on Saturday, there will be as many as 3 presentations happening at the same time. So even if you wanted to, you couldn't watch everything at once. So that on-demand option will give you the chance to be able to go back and watch everything that you might have missed when you have to make the choice of which one of these 3 things do I want to watch.
Awesome, Just QT. Why do you think most of the stuff on X-Plane are payware, like most of the scenery compared to MSFS? Well, the reason why I think is because it's an older platform. There's been plenty more years for developers to go to X-Plane to improve sceneries. With this sim, with MSFS, only what is it, a year old now? A little more than a year old. X-Plane 10, X-Plane 9, a lot of versions. So I think that as years progress, we'll see the same improvement with the MSFS as well. But also just give it some time. Let it, let the SDK do what it needs to do. Yeah, I still think on that one. And Brian, thanks as well. Awesome. We're using all. Oh, I still going. How come we are all using the FD2NX from VATSIM in MSFS and not the default one from Microsoft? I mean, why have they not had a decent piece running it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting question. Kind of like how X-Plane has got the 7.3, which I think is great quality by default. But then we also have the freeware Zebo mod. We have that same kind of thing going on in Microsoft FlightSim. Obviously, we know Microsoft bought working title, so the improvements that were made into their aircraft, into the G1000 by working title, those are theoretically rolling out right into the simulator. I think a lot of people thought the same thing might happen with Fly-by-Wire, and to my knowledge, it hasn't happened yet. And I don't know if there's any discussion to that effect or not. But it kind of seems like maybe that should be what's happening, and it's been really cool to watch, like how all these freeware groups, which typically, I mean, that's a hard thing to do. What Fly-by-Wire has done, like they've put together a huge team of people. They do some incredible stuff, everything from the videos to the PDFs, and then their regular updates. Like they're everywhere in the community right now, and it's freeware, and it's being done all by volunteers and by this really cool team. And so I'm really impressed by what they've been able to do. And there are people like Salty who are doing the same thing with the 747 and Microsoft FlightSim. I don't know if we'll one day see those things rolled into the default version of the simulator or not. It might be something that Microsoft would have to make a decision on and decide on in the future. So no idea if that's what they're going to do, but I see, having seen them do it with working title, it's not unreasonable to think the same thing could happen again. Then again, maybe Fly-by-Wire doesn't want that.
Yeah.
And I haven't really, I haven't really known. It'd be a good question to ask them if you ever have them on here, or if anyone's ever watching one of their streams.
Definitely a really good question, and it shows how third-party creators, even for freeware products, that they change your whole experience so much. And to have the whole simulators made so we can create stuff and edit stuff so easily, that is really good in itself. We've had great transparency from Asobo and the devs there. It's been brilliant. Their updates, their dev updates, their Q&As, really well done. We have a lot of questions about aircraft here. I'm afraid, we really can't answer a lot of aircraft questions. But when will the Factor 777 get an update? They have just
They'll be at the
announced.
show. You can ask them.
There we go. They'll be at the show.
Yep.
Have a V2 coming out. So I don't know when, but there should be one coming out pretty soon.
And they're doing an announcement, Flight Factor is as well, at 4:45 Pacific on Saturday. So that'll be an opportunity for you to hear directly from Ramses and see exactly what the plans are. He, probably is going to announce something, but if not, obviously that's a great question to ask him. And for those coming to the show, you'll be able to meet the Flight Factor team and ask all those questions in person too.
Why does X-Plane lack commercial aircraft for default? I think
it's an Austin Meyer question.
That is.
There's a 330 coming out though now.
There you go.
When they teased that.
Well, that's
and there's a 7.3, so
there is a 330 coming out. Yeah, I also believe for the Just QT that I think that there is sort of an element of, I don't know, Austin, whoever does this, but the developers will probably think that third party is gonna come out pretty soon, so I might just leave it there, allow all, because surely he knows that there's no way I'm gonna make a plane worthy so good as PMDG. I'm going to leave it here at a default plane and get all the third parties to do their stuff. So I believe that there's an element where developers just sort of want third parties to come in the simulator, and that's why they don't really add a lot of default aircraft. So, but definitely there's a lot of third party stuff coming as well. So exciting times. Does Thrustmaster do Boeing equipment? I believe.
I don't think they do right now, but they are making a big announcement at the show. They're adding a new product to their civil aviation lineup, and they've done this every year at our show. So in 2019, they launched the rudder pedals. It was the first place anywhere in the world you could try their pedals when we had our Orlando show. in 2020, they were going to use our show to announce their Airbus lineup, that side stick that they created. Obviously, that couldn't happen with the COVID stuff going on, but that was supposed to be announced at our show. So I can't speak to what they're planning, but I mean, if you just think about it, right? They've already done rudder pedals, they've got a headset, they've got a
Yeah.
bunch of different sticks, and they've got an Airbus product. So if they're announcing something new, I don't know if it's going to be a Boeing one, but that would seem like it would fit pretty nicely in that list. So you have to be there in person, of course, to be able to see
Yes.
it and try it, or their announcement is actually kicking off the show at 10:30 a.m. on
Oof.
Saturday. They'll be able to show exactly what it is they've been working on and release that new product. So we'll find out exactly what it is then.
Yeah, so tune into that one. Thrustmaster, first session, I believe. As an online participant, will I be able to ask a question to presenters? So online.
Yes, the online attendees will be able to. If
Okay.
you're watching the show through our online platform, you'll be able to send in a question, much like you can here on YouTube. And, you know, depending on how many questions we have from the in-person audience, like obviously we're going to be doing those ones first, but if we have questions coming in from the digital audience, there will be a way to ask those questions and we'll feed them through to the presenters as well.
Awesome. I'll look at my thank you for all your form responses. We can go through these now a little bit. Do you have PMDG coming to the event?
Not this year. They were there in 2018 and they announced a number of things. Robert is an amazing, amazing speaker, so he's a really cool guy to be able to meet. And I think he told me he has a conflict with another board meeting for a separate thing that he does that weekend. So PMDG will not be there this year.
Okay. Also, last year, so did you have an event last year or was that cancelled?
No, that was planned to be in Vegas,
Okay.
which is this is
Yeah.
the 2018 FlightSimExpo t-shirt, by the way, where we were also in Vegas. We had planned to go back to Vegas in 2020, but with COVID happening, we were not able to do that. So we canceled the event, I think around March, sort of right when all this was like really kicking off and we were all realizing what it meant. And unfortunately,
Yeah.
we weren't able to do anything in 2020, but we are back this year in San Diego.
Nice. Also, your role also comes under the FlightSim Association too. So you probably manage both platforms. Would you be able to like provide a little intro about that? So like, what was your aim in creating that?
Yeah, Flight Simulation Association, you can find the website at FlightSimAssociation.com.
Yep.
And it really came out of what we've done at the show and people saying, you know, I'd love to be able to do more Q&As with developers on video in real time. I'd love to see developers talking about things like the future of Flight Sim and what does Xbox mean for us as a community. And what we tried to do with Flight Sim Association is bring that conference experience to you, but year round. And so you can join that association totally for free. We do a series of live streams with experts. So people generally who don't have their own YouTube channel or their own Twitch presence, but who know an awful lot about things like virtual reality or online flying with VATSIM. And we've tried to come up with this educational series of live streams just like this one that are all focused around how can I get the best performance out of my sim, or how can I, you know, fly this procedure as accurately as possible. So through the association, we're doing stuff like that. If you join, as I said, you can do that for free. You'll get access to a few discounts just for joining. We also allow people to subscribe for $3 a month or $30 a year, and that unlocks a bunch of additional perks. Things like being able to get discounts on products from Orbix and Aerosoft and all the other big name developers. Gives you access to a live chat during our webinars, so you can actually ask Austin Meyer a question in real time when we're doing one of those sessions with him, and a whole lot more. So you can see all that at FlightSimAssociation.com, and keep an eye out for other stuff from us. We're obviously doing a little bit less of that with the show coming up, but one of the things that we were able to do through the association back on July 24th is put together a really cool panel discussion that had 6 different flight sim developers all talking about the upcoming release for Xbox. We gave away 15 prizes during the course of that live stream. We had over 1,000 people watching, which was so cool. And we're going to be doing more stuff like that in the future. So FlightSimAssociation.com has all the information. And especially if you're someone who's new to flight simulation and you're looking for where can I find a place where all the developers are, there's lists of all the top developers, lists of all the hardware options that are on there for you. If you're nervous about getting on VATSIM, we've got technology and tools to help you with that, plus a bunch of different resources all on the site. And again, it's free to join at FlightSimAssociation.com.
There you go, link in chat. So join it. I think I have an account on that as well. So that is really good. Some simmers are considering MSFS to be an arcade game more than a flight simulator compared to X-Plane. Do I agree? Do you agree? Well,
I want to hear you. I want to hear your answer to
yeah.
that one first.
I just think it's all about third-party products. If you're flying a PMDG in this same arcade sim, it isn't an arcade sim. You know, if you have a third-party aircraft that's that standard, I would say it's as good as X-Plane, 100%. But I also understand your reasoning there because even flying around, you know, I can see some of these clouds. You know, they look a bit cartoony like, or I can see the reasoning behind that and having all the multiplayer and stuff. But I think give it maybe 1 year's time, and with better compatibility and stuff, I think that it will be up to the level of X-Plane. But you never know because Austin's gonna work on stuff too. So maybe they'll go higher. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're generally right. So
Yeah.
I talk to people all the time who think Microsoft Flight Sim is the best sim that's ever been created.
Yeah.
They're never flying anything else, and they love it. And I talk to people on VATSIM sometimes who are like, "Oh, that sim is a joke," like you said. So I think there's definitely a
Yeah.
wide variety of opinion there. But I'm with you that the third-party community, whether it's X-Plane, Microsoft Flight Sim, P3D, anything, the third-party community has always really made the simulators into great products. And I think by default, the experience that you get is nowhere close to the experience you get once you go out and find a bunch of add-ons, whether they be payware or freeware. And Microsoft Flight Sim just hasn't had the time for that
Mm-hmm.
yet. And they're continuing to update things. Those updates break things, which is what
Yeah.
happens when you update software, right? And so all that stuff just needs time to play out. So certainly when we saw the launch of Microsoft Flight Sim, I think the general perception in the community was it's not ready yet, but it's very
Mm-hmm.
cool. Let's give it a little while. And I think that probably is still the mentality
Yeah.
across the whole community. But I think people are more slowly saying, you know what, this actually is almost ready for me now, or this is ready for some of the types of flying that I like to do. And I do think people are spending a bit more time in Microsoft Flight Sim now than they would have been. We work very closely with Navigraph, so we do surveys on this kind of thing to see where people are. And the next big one will probably be coming up in a few months. So it'll be really interesting to see when we dug into the data from the 2020 Navigraph survey. Although there were way more people flying Microsoft Flight Sim, the people who were using X-Plane tended to be more real-world pilots and tended to fly it more frequently than people using Microsoft Flight Sim. So I'm really interested to see if that has shifted a little bit and we're seeing, migration from one platform to the other, or if everything kind of looks similar to how it did. And actually, some of that survey data is what underpins a lot of the stuff on FlightSim Association. So when we've written articles, guides, and that kind of thing, it's not just, here's my opinion or here's Phil's opinion, who's the co-founder of FlightSim Association. It's like, here's what the survey data is actually telling us about what people are doing.
Yeah. Really good. Another one here on the form. So why San Diego? So how did you choose that? Is it due to maybe the pandemic? It's safer in California, or is it just like a nice city? So
Yeah, well, I mean, all those things are true, but
mm,
this stuff is all done years in advance. And so at the end of our, well, actually, but around the beginning of middle of 2020, I guess was, no, beginning of 2020, we went out and did a survey to the community and we said, where would you like us to hold
okay.
this show?
Yeah.
And every year we run that survey, we go get the results, and then we go and try to find cities that work. So San Diego would have been voted on by the community. It's not just people who come to the show. FS Elite published an article, and anyone could actually have gone in and done that survey. We do it across Facebook, and we send emails out and we run it basically based on what the community has to say. So San Diego was picked over very close second was San Antonio for our
Mm,
2021 events. But this stuff happens like almost now 2 years ago, and it always happens several years before the actual show itself can happen. We aren't probably going to do one of those this time around for our next show because with COVID it's a little bit more
yes.
difficult and
Yeah.
we have a few less choices than we normally would. But the hope is to go back to that. And so really every event we've ever held, and certainly that'll be the case this year, the location has always been voted on by the community. So they gave us Vegas in 2018, they voted on Orlando in 2019, and they voted to go back to Vegas again in 2020. And we're going to continue to plan to crowdsource that from all of our participants as we move forward, as long as it's feasible to do that. It just so happened that this year California does work out pretty well in terms of
Mm,
where the virus is at and everything else. And San Diego, I mean, it is amazing, amazing city. It's a place I thought we would never be able to bring this show because usually the hotel rooms are really expensive. We were able to get a great deal with the
yeah.
hotel we're working at this year. It's $150 all in, which is a really hard price to find in San Diego. There's a huge Air and Space Museum there, largest zoo in the
Yeah.
world,
Yeah.
Fleet Science Center. There's a floating naval aircraft museum on an aircraft carrier that you can actually go walk around to and explore. All that stuff is available to you in San Diego, plus great shopping, beaches, amazing weather year round. It's just a really, really cool place to visit, even if you're not even coming for the show. And so all that information, of course, is on the website. We have travel discounts with a bunch of airlines for people who are planning to go. If you show your FlightSimExpo badge when you go to the museum, you get a discount there. So we've really tried to make it as easy as possible for people who are thinking about it, and great chance to make it into a vacation too if you're thinking about coming.
Yeah, I was there in 2018, and I can from that as well. Those, the zoo's amazing. The airport's cool as well. That low line of approach into the runway is amazing.
Yeah.
It's a really cool place to host the expo. So, High Flyer, will you have sessions for helicopter sims and aircraft?
Yeah, anytime anyone ever asks about helicopters, I go back to my friend Sergio, who runs the
Yeah.
website helisimmer.com. I think it really is the authoritative source for helicopters in simulation. So he's actually doing 2 presentations, both of which are going to be remote. So he's in Europe. He can't come to the show, but he'll be giving 2 talks remotely through the platform that we use for online attendees. There's one specifically on helicopter flight simulation, which is actually a continuation of a presentation he gave in 2019. And the other one he's doing is an introduction to virtual reality and how you can use that tool in your home simulation, whether it's for helicopters or anything else. So those 2 things will be available through FlightSimExpo. And then on the association front, we've also partnered with Sergio to put together a new guide for people who are getting into helicopter flight simulation. And so keep an eye out for that. That basically covers, I've flown sims, but I've only flown fixed wing. How do I get into flying helicopters? And he's given some really great guidance and tips on the best way to get started. And that'll be up on FlightSim Association a little after the show as well.
Nice. Would either of you fly the Concorde on MSFS when it comes out? I don't think so. No, it's not really my type of flying, to be honest. Oh, this is a good one, Alexander. I want to suggest the toolbar pushback add-on for the FSA. It's great for all simmers, helping in moving out of the gates and parking as easily. Using it, yep, I use that as well. So I guess if you have some mod page or anything on the FSA, that is definitely one I should go on there. It's a game changer.
Yeah, so we have a page on freeware actually that sort of covers all the most popular freeware, and then one also for payware add-ons that kind of again covers the most popular. I mean, there's millions of add-ons out there, right? So what we've done is, again, instead of me just saying, well, here's the ones I like, we went out and did a survey. FS Elite did a survey as well. They polled, I think, over 5,000 people, and we were able to figure out like what are the most popular add-ons and both the payware and the freeware space, and how can you go and find those. So all that information is on the website. I think we have Pushback helper on there for Microsoft Flight Sim, and the plan is to update that data with the next Navigraph survey. So again, we'll go out to the community and we'll say, what are your favorite add-ons? And we want to be able to just list the most popular ones so that people can find in one easy to find place all the most popular add-ons. I think that stuff is really valuable for people to avoid you having to go out and search all the different places. You can actually just find, well, here's the most popular stuff for your simulators all in one place. And that's a great recommendation. So thanks, Alex, for that one as well.
That is, if you like, it's a good mod. So I'm looking at it now. VATSIM, wow, thresholds on there, explain the rules in there. It's incredible. I'll put a link in chat, so check it out. If you are ever in doubt of where to go for your freeware sceneries, there you go. You got payware as well, hardware, software, airport scenery, nav data, charts. It's really good. It's like a big hub, isn't it? A huge hub for all your FlightSim content.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were going for. And if you've been simming for many years, you probably know a lot of this stuff already. But if you're new to this hobby, like if you've just come into Microsoft Flight Sim, or if you've been flying on the Xbox and you're kind of thinking, well, how do I get a little bit more realism into my Flight Sim experience? We tried to just take all the information that's like all over the forums and in different places and just put it in one easy to read place for people to give you a great resource to get started.
Really good question here. So, how are you getting new simmers involved? There's been a huge influx of new simmers this year and last year, like massive numbers. How have you sort of targeted this to them and you want to get them involved?
Yeah, FlightSimExpo has always been a
Yeah.
place where we've really tried to be an ambassador to flight simulation and really give as many people the opportunity to come in and try this. So at our show in 2019 in Orlando, about a month before the show, we were looking at the attendee numbers. They were looking
Mm.
amazing. We had a lot of great support from sponsors, and we had some extra money. And so Phil and I said, what
Mm.
should we do with this? Should we just like pocket it ourselves? And we decided, no, let's put it back into flight simulation. So we partnered with EAA and AOPA, which are two of the biggest real world pilot associations. We worked with Lime Aviation, which is a huge training provider of real world flight training materials. And we also went out and did a bunch of local radio advertising in Orlando. When was the last time you think FlightSim was ever advertised on the radio? And so we did that. And as a result of that, about 25%, so about 600 people that came to our show in 2019 told us they were brand new to flight simulation, that they had never really experienced it before. And we think that's really cool that we're able to bring in a bunch of people to this hobby and share it and showcase it with them, because it's been so much, I'm sure for you and for me as well, a huge enjoyment, huge part of my life. It's gotten me to where
Yeah.
I am today with my career. I work
Yeah.
for an airline, and I would never have been an airline pilot except for flight
Hmm.
simulation. And so we really want to make FlightSimExpo and our association a place where people can come in and discover this hobby, and then hopefully discover some of the great third-party content and the content creators that make it so really cool. And so absolutely, we are trying our best. We're currently running advertising on Facebook, for
Yeah.
example, all targeting those real-world pilot people or people who might just be looking for the next gaming experience to say, well, hey, let's come and try flight simulation. And obviously, our show is a great place to learn how to get started.
Yeah. Another one here. So, how many are going to be like entering in person? Do you think for the weekend? How many? Yeah. How many people are like either booked tickets yet, or how many are allowed to enter the venue with the pandemic and stuff?
So as of today, in California, there are no restrictions on
Yeah.
capacity limitations or on any type of physical distancing. We are planning to make sure that there's lots of space available to people. We actually booked this venue back before COVID, so this was when we thought we were going to be
Mm.
having like 3 or 4 thousand people, and so we've got lots and lots of space available. People will be able to certainly space out plenty. We're expecting somewhere between 500 and 1,000 attendees to take part, and there are more than 500 registered as of today. So if it was to happen tomorrow, we'd have a few over 500 people that would be at the show, which is great for us. I mean, that's given everything that's going on and given international travel, those are just huge numbers. So we're really
Yeah.
grateful and excited about that. And obviously, people can continue to register all the way up to the show, and you can even register at the door as well. So we're certainly expecting those numbers to continue to grow. Again, we don't have any formal limitation on how many people can be there, but the last thing that I want for me personally, because I've been taking this very seriously, is to be
Mm.
like packed in a room of people, right? So we are making sure that there is lots of space available, and if you want to stay 6 feet or 2 meters apart from people, that's something that you'll be able to do no problem.
Nice. And you said that you were an airline pilot, so it's just
That's
a
right.
lot of questions with this one here. So, like, do you see the whole aviation industry rising again? Like, do you see it coming back to life, or do you see it? Or
Yes.
yeah, so you do. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you're already seeing that in the United States, and
Mm.
currently most of the world is not able to enter the United States. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
despite that, the domestic U.S. travel industry is doing extremely well.
It is
We
fun.
haven't quite recovered to, full-on 2019 numbers, but
Mm.
they're not far off from that. I think, for me especially, the last 2 years of being on video calls and on Zoom and stuff has really shown the importance of hanging out in person. And actually, funnily enough, last night for like the first time, I think legitimately in 2 years, we had a friend come over, and we haven't
Wow.
had that. Myself and my girlfriend haven't had that at any point, and
Wow.
so my voice is a little scratchy because we had a really good night and we had a lot of fun last night. And so I just remembered like, wow, the in-person experience is something I haven't had. Like I've been doing a lot of video calls and stuff, and it's just not the same. So I think there may be a little bit of a difference in terms of how people view travel. Maybe
Yeah.
people are going to go on a couple of bigger trips. For a lot of companies where people might have been on the road all the time, they may do something a little bit different, where now their people are flying to the company because it's the 2 or 3 times a year that they all get together because people are working remotely more. So there's going to be a little bit of difference, but it's hard for me to envision a world where we've
Mm.
all just abandoned travel, because it's such an
Yeah.
amazing experience to be able to go somewhere, to meet somebody, to see new things. And especially, this is kind of getting a little bit off topic, but if you look at the conversations on social media and like how people get angry at each other so
Yeah.
quickly, I think we've lost a bit of perspective, right? Like I
Yeah.
haven't been to the from Canada. I usually am in the US almost every day for work
Mm.
or for FlightSim, and I have so many friends there, and I haven't been there in 2 years basically. And it's
Yeah.
just like you lose the perspective of what is it like to be in the United States, which is a weird thing for me to say because I talk to Americans all the time and I, see this stuff all the time, but without actually being there, you just don't get that same experience. And then if you go to Europe, I was with someone who was American in Europe for the first time in his life, and his eyes were just completely open to a new world. And he's like, it's so different here. And I'm like, yeah, I've been to Europe many times. I'm like, it's not that different. Like, but for him, it was like a total eye-opening experience. It was the first time he'd ever been out of the country, and I do think that's something that we're never going to lose. And I certainly hope that we can get aviation back to where it was because we all need this as a world, as a community, and certainly for people like me whose livelihoods are dependent upon travel. I hope things come back quickly.
Definitely do, yeah. Night at night, thank you for your question. What kind of monitor do you recommend for a flight sim? What size and resolution for the best experience?
That'll be a great question to ask Ian on Friday at FlightSimExpo.
Yeah,
He
there
is
you go.
the expert. I am not. So I would save that question for Ian as part of the Friday session that he's doing. He's speaking again twice on Friday. The first one is at 1 o'clock Pacific, and it's all about building your own computer and setting up a great flight sim computer. So he'll be able to answer that question much better than I could.
There you go. I'll just find your schedule on your website. Have a look.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
FlightSimExpo.com, and then there's a link
yeah.
at the top to schedule and speakers that has
There
the
you
full
go.
schedule of all the activities, as well as a list of all the
There you
speakers,
go.
so you can go and check them out, check out their different bios, and see we've got airline pilots, we've got flight instructors, we've got simmers, people who work for the Air Force, U.S. government, and of course a whole bunch of developers speaking as well.
Yep, there's Ian's one, building your own computer, 1 p.m. Friday. Really good. So there you go. So put the link in chat. Just go to the link. You have all the presenters online, the titles, the rooms, really well organized. So really, really, really good. You also got your COVID info too, which is really good. Right, what do we have? I've got it here. What is a good one? How can our community learn? Here we go. How can our community learn more about the Expo and the FSA? So,
Basically, by looking at the website
yep.
is the best place to go. So FlightSimExpo.com for the show and FlightSimAssociation.com for the association. But I'm really happy to talk to people all the time. So we're all over
Yeah,
social media, both profiles
you
on
are. Yeah.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can send me an email. It's evan@FlightSimAssociation.com. You can call me. I still have a phone. People use it sometimes. And you can find me on Discord as well. I mean, I'm basically all over the community. And I'm on VATSIM, controlling on a
Yeah.
fairly regular basis a couple times a week. So I love talking to the community. I love doing stuff like this, hearing what people think. We've built FlightSimExpo and the association entirely based on stuff that people have suggested. In fact, FlightSim Association, we have this thing called Simmer Search that lets you actually see what other members are nearby you if you choose to opt into it. That was an idea that somebody said to me at FlightSimExpo in 2019. He was like, hey, I'm loving the show, but like now I got to go back to New York, and I would love to know, is there someone in my neighborhood? Because for me, I have a lot of friends that are totally uninterested in flight sim. And if I start
Yeah.
talking about flight sim, they're just like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, go be a nerd somewhere else. And what would be really cool is if I could actually hang out with a group of people like once a month and meet up at someone's house. And with 4 or 5 of us, we could, actually fly someone else's sim and we could share experiences and we could even help each other with problems. So we're trying to build something like that through this thing called Simmer Search. And that all comes from just feedback and ideas that folks have shared with me over the years. So by all means, I'd encourage you to reach out if you have questions. Send me an email, give me a call, talk to me on Discord, talk to me on VATSIM, and I'd love to chat with you.
It was, I believe you tried to get a Solo on the Expo, didn't you? I believe they aren't involved. So if you can say more about that and do you plan to get them involved maybe next year and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, we basically reach out to anyone and everyone in flight simulation, and so if there's somebody that you're wondering if they're at the show or not, and you're wondering if we talked to them, the answer is yes. We certainly did try to get them to show up. Everyone who's going to be at the show is on the sponsors and exhibitors page of our website, so you can see the full list of who's participating, who's going to be attending, and who's going to be exhibiting at the show right there. Unfortunately, Microsoft, just due to what was going on in their business and with the launch of Xbox, they weren't able to commit to taking part in the show officially. I know several of the people that work with Microsoft, so folks who do live streaming with them, they'll be at the show. Obviously, you're going to see the simulator at plenty of different developers' booths, and so I think just for them, one of the challenges challenges is the Sobo is based in France. People from France cannot currently enter the United States. And so that obviously right
Yes.
there makes it very difficult to
There you
get
go.
their team out to the show. But I'm sure they would have loved to be part of it.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly hopeful that they will be in the future. They were planning to be at the show in 2020 when, of course, we had to cancel that one. So I think there's a very good chance we'll see them out in the future.
Definitely. If you have one choice and have enough money to buy this, would you buy either MSFS or X-Plane? Which one and
I'd buy
why?
both.
Both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would buy both. I mean, I think for me, I would so I don't fly as much in the sim as I used to. I used to fly
Yeah.
P3D quite a bit several years ago. Now because I fly in real life and because I spend a lot of time controlling VATSIM, I don't fly as frequently. But looking at the guide on FlightSim Association that we wrote about this, I think it's about 30% of people, maybe a little bit more, use more than one simulator.
Oh,
32%
really?
is the exact
Oh,
number. And so
look.
I think that just speaks to the fact that each of the simulators kind of has its own little unique niche, including P3D still. I think there's still a lot of things you can do in that sim that you can't do in either of the other two, specifically around some of the high fidelity airliners we have, like the FS Labs or the PMDG stuff. And so if I had the choice and I was going to get back into simming, I think I would pick both. And if I was to
Yeah.
actually start simming like tomorrow, I would probably be doing a lot of my airliner flying and a lot of my more serious flying in X-Plane right now. And I would probably take up something small in general aviation and do some VFR stuff in Microsoft Flight Sim and go fly over my house like everybody else is doing, and kind of spend more of my time doing that if I was to pick. But I think I'd have a tough time choosing one or the other.
I would,
I would
yeah.
probably pick both, and I would also probably myself probably wait until at least the X-Plane announcement on the 25th.
Yeah.
To see if I'm going to have to buy X-Plane 12 or if I can buy X-Plane 11 and get it as a free upgrade to X-Plane 12. So I might wait myself until that new version comes out.
Yeah. Hold on a little bit and see what's planned. That is definitely one I've been asked a lot though with what sim should I invest in? Like people who want to join Flight Sim and they're so confused about what should I join. I've heard a few views on it. I thought initially that you should all go with Microsoft because it's only a year old now and it will only get better. But then you have now Austin's come out as well with big improvements. So now it's sort of either both or it's really up to you, isn't it? It's really up to your type of flying. If you're more of a VFR guy, I'll say go with Microsoft. If you want more realism, because I believe all the planes are going to be working with the new update, aren't they? If we're explain all the current planes are going to work with the new version of it, I believe. So yeah, so really exciting times. A lot of third party stuff coming out. Why did you start the Expo? So like why? Okay, yeah, that's a very good question. So why did you start it? What was your overall vision with this event now?
It was launched in 2018 by
Yeah,
myself and Phil, a co-founder of FlightSimExpo, and it really came out of us seeing work we'd done in a previous conference, seeing how excited people were to be able to meet face to face for the first time. Every year we have people, maybe through a virtual airline or through a Discord community, that come to the show
yeah.
and they're like, I've known this person for 20 years. We've only ever talked on Discord and TeamSpeak. I don't even know what they look like, they're able to meet and hang out for the first time. And that happens with developers as well. A lot of developers now are based all over the world. And so Orbix has team members in multiple countries. For them in a normal year, they would be bringing all those people together. And it's the one time of the year where like the entire company of Orbix is actually physically in one place, which is really cool.
Wow.
So we tried to launch this show basically to cater to that and to cater to feedback from the community, which was we wanted this place to get together that we could have as a big celebration of flight simulation together as a community, and we wanted it in places that were really cool destinations. So not some smaller town that was very difficult to get to. They wanted it in a place like Vegas and Orlando and San Diego, destination cities that are amazing places to spend the weekend, even if you're not doing anything related to flight simulation. And that was really the impetus for being able to start this show. And we've been amazed to see how much support it's had from the community. Over 1,000 people in the first year, almost 1,700 people came to Orlando in 2019. And we've obviously been on a trend to continue growing up until COVID and everything else that's been happening with us over the past little while. But we're excited to bring this show back and get people back together in person, and hopefully start to again rebuild that with the level of interest we see in flight simulation. As soon as we get some of this stuff cleared up and travel becomes a little bit easier, I think the potential for a show like this is just astronomical.
It is, yeah, it really is. Question here. So, are there plans for Infinite Flight to be there? Do you have is it Jason? I think is a developer there.
Yeah, Jason's one of their media
Yeah.
personalities. Laura, I believe, is the CEO of Infinite Flight, and that sim, it's been amazing to watch that one grow
Yeah.
from being, I don't think it was ever all that small, but I didn't know that most of the time on Infinite Flight, there's more people connected than on VATSIM, which is like
Oh.
that's really cool to be able to
Yeah.
find out. And I think it's a really neat platform. We talk a lot with respect to desktop flight simulation about how you've got to spend all this money to get started, and here's Infinite Flight that you can buy for like $1 in the App Store, and you can be using it on your phone, tomorrow. I think that's really cool. They are unable to make it this year. Again, a lot of their team is
Yeah.
international, so for them, they can't get into the United States. They've always been really strong supporters of ours, and they're looking
I
forward to
have.
hopefully
Yeah.
being with us again in the future. I think in Orlando, they had a nice big community meetup, and there were like 20 or 30 people from Infinite Flight that were able to come out and hang out together, which was great. And so I'm sure they'll be looking forward to doing that again as soon as they can, get into the US and be able to participate in stuff like this.
There you go. Awesome. I spent a fortune on explain sceneries and add-ons, and
Yep.
now I'm using a lot of money on MSFS.
Yep.
Do you think someone should focus on one sim only? That is a oof.
Yeah, I mean, I get the logic of that, but
Yeah.
I think it's tough because the simulators themselves are so different
Yeah.
and the development of them is so different, right? Here we're going to go from X-Plane 11.5, which Austin himself has said looks very dated, to like something totally new. And on the Microsoft front, you're seeing like stuff changing like literally every other day, it feels like, with different updates that are going on there. And so I think to say like, well, I'm only going to ever fly on one platform, that's just a tough thing to do because you're going to
It
miss out
is.
on all the stuff that may be happening on another platform that's happening side by side. I get it. You have to obviously make some sort of an investment when you start buying a bunch of these things.
Yep.
And so, maybe eventually over time you may gravitate toward using one a little more than the other. But right now, I mean, for me, there's just so much out there and so much going on that I think I would feel a bit like I was missing out if I was like, no, I'm just a, pure X-Plane simmer, although lots of people certainly do that. So I advocate for people to try out a few. I mean, it's only $60 to buy the base simulator.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's actually a discount available through FSA on X-Plane if
Oh,
you're
there you
looking to
go.
pick that up. And so I think if you really feel like you've got one established, you're probably not wrong to keep doing that. But when you're just starting out, I do think it's good to kind of play the field and try a few different simulators before you say, okay, I really like the way something is handled in this one, so I'm going to focus on it. That's my view. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I understand that, a lot of things, it's quite a lot of money. It's obvious, all the sceneries, all the aircraft. It is a lot of money. It's definitely one of the more expensive hobbies out there. But I think just we have I builds coming out. The I build A310 was a masterpiece. It's an incredible airplane, that one. You agree? Awesome, yeah. I build A380 coming out. Like it's amazing what's coming out for X-Plane. And then we have a whole other world out there. PMDG coming out with all their...
Yeah.
It's incredible. Really is. So, yeah.
Yeah, for me, a lot of the, when I was flying more regularly in the sims, it was always like, what do I want to do today, right? So if I want to fly a 7.3, I would be flying at the time in PMDG because
Yeah.
that's where the NGX was. And if I wanted to be flying something like general aviation, I might go to X-Plane because that's where the planes that I like to fly are. And so I kind of tend to follow the developers and I follow, where's the best scenery and where's the best airplane. And I think people who do have multiple simulators and they have them, both set up fairly extensively, that's what a lot of them do is they're like, okay, what kind of flying do I want to do? Where's the airplane that I want to fly? And that's what they're going to do. It'd be lovely if it was easier for developers to like port over aircraft. Like it'd be really cool if you could
It
have like
would,
PMDG
yeah.
could release their 7.3 in X-Plane and in MSFS
Yeah,
at once. Like wouldn't that be awesome for all of us?
I
But
would.
obviously, it's very difficult to even do that with scenery, let alone airplanes. And I'm sure we won't ever see anything like that happen. But that'd be certainly very cool if you could actually be able to develop for both platforms at the same time if there was enough compatibility between them, and then you wouldn't have to choose.
Definitely. I think we're actually almost done through the whole list today, which is really good. This should
These
be
are some
our...
great questions. Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
Oh, what is one we haven't done? We've actually done a lot of them. What's the best setup for beginners? I currently only have one joystick, but I'm not sure what to upgrade it to.
Well, I think my answer to that is like you've already started the way that almost all of us
Yeah.
have, and so we did some survey research on this for Flight Simulation Association on kind of
Yep.
like what is the setup that people start with, and that's generally what people start with. So I would point you to our guide on setting up a home flight simulator. There's an expanded version as well as a more basic version on the website, and that's a great place to start when it comes to sort of talking you through what you might consider doing next. When you've already got a simulator and a joystick that you're reasonably happy with, I think the next step is kind of dependent on where you want to go. So if you're someone who wants to simulate realistic air traffic control type stuff, I would go the VATSIM or IVA or Pilot Edge route and then start to do some investing around that, which might look like a headset. It might look like head tracking. You might want to think about things like Navigraph for your charts and your nav data. If you're someone who's like, no, I don't want to do VATSIM, maybe you want to look at something like military flying. So then you might consider either a new sim like DCS World. You might consider an upgraded joystick. You might be looking to do some dogfighting, and there's different controls that you might consider for that kind of thing. Then again, you might want to be someone who's just like, I want to do formation flying, but in general aviation, I mean, there's just so many like places you can go. So I think it would depend a little bit more on like what your personal, I guess, goals are to some extent. We do a little bit of coaching through FlightSim Associations. So if you want to sit down with me for like a half hour and just kind of chat through things, that's a thing that we offer through FlightSim Association. And there's a few other services that do that too. But I mean, I think if you're already flying and you're liking it, you'll continue to find things that are interesting to you, and you'll continue to update your stuff on the basis of what you find is interesting. I'm sure you have already, but if not, communities like this one, streamers, Discords, there's so much out there. If you kind of find something that interests you and then find the community that's around it and join that Discord or participate in that forum board, you'll be able to pick up just a ton from what people are asking. And of course, you can ask your own questions too. So if you're like, I really want to fly fighter jets, like go to Spudknocker's YouTube channel, go join his Discord, see what people are saying, and I think you'll get some great ideas just out of that.
Definitely, yeah. And for me, it was a bit of a starting at one joystick, then get a throttle, and then get the rudder pedals. I've got to say, rudder pedals will be high on my list. They have really changed my experience a lot. So if you're like looking at them, there's Thrustmaster out there. There's a side check as well. Yeah, definitely get one of them if you can. All right, started with the
and on the hardware piece, just because it's interesting and I love data. We did a poll of about 100 flight simmers through FlightSim Association. 99% said they have a joystick. That's what they fly with. Half of them said they also have rudder pedals. So that was a pretty big drop. I thought more people would, but still, like half is a pretty good number. And then lots of people are kind of going their own route. So our guide on hardware, for example, if you're like, I want to add something physical to my setup, we have a whole guide on that talks about what the different options are that you can definitely look into. And I should just say hi to FlightSim Netherlands. Thank you guys for being on today and for this media partner. We just signed them on as a media partner a couple of days ago. So thanks, guys.
Awesome. So you had the 30 Pro, but then you went to the Subject Go. Okay, so really good. Now we're hooking on my own DIY cockpit. Oh, HUD simming is so tempting. You will start up with the joystick and you end up with a home cockpit. Absolutely. We're all going to get smoke pretty soon as well. So we'll get some smoke effect blowing. Yeah, it is, isn't it? You're always wanting more, aren't you? You always want more scenery. You always want more airplanes. You always want more hardware. Just how it goes.
That's what's so cool with this hobby too, is there is so much out there and there's so much you can do with it. I talk to people all the time, everyone who is like, well, I have a joystick and a keyboard, to people who have full-on 737 cockpits in their basements. And I talk to people who are, as FlightSim Netherlands just said, who are 3D printing their own flight controls. I talk to people who use open source software to literally program a flap switch. Like they've there are people who've like made this thing from scratch, and that's how they operate the flaps with this thing that they made. There's a huge do-it-yourself community as part of flight simulation. That's something that I would be terrible at because I'm just so awful with my hands. But I think it's so cool that you could, and people do, fly a simulator that they have built themselves with their own hands and basically build every part of it. And I think that's like just such a cool aspect to this hobby. So there's lots of great people out there on YouTube and other places where you can find that whole do-it-yourself community. And one of them is speaking at the show. Sebastian is talking about how MobiFlight can be used to basically build home cockpit components almost all by using open source stuff. And basically for like $20, you can build yourself a yoke if you want to.
Really good. Okay, so all of them are done on my list now. It's been an hour and a half. Thank you all for your questions. Been remarkable.
Yeah, great questions.
Been really good chat today. Probably going to sum it up now. So thank you all for your for tuning in firstly, and for coming on, showing your support for the stream and for the Expo and the amazing team over there. I really appreciate it. I'm sure Evan will also appreciate it as well. It was a really great time. Also, I might leave it to Evan as well, but if we can leave the stream now, so how can people sort of like contact or find out more?
Yeah, I mean, the best thing you can do is to register for the show if you're able to make it in person, or if you can't make it in person, to come and participate in the online only version of the show and help support this thing that helps our industry grow and that helps developers do more of what they do and create more products that we all know and love. So people can register and find out all the information about our show at
Yep.
FlightSimExpo.com. And I encourage you, if you have ideas, questions, suggestions, feel free to reach out. My email is evan@FlightSimAssociation.com. You can find my phone number on the website. I'm on Discord and all over our social media channels as well. So if people have anything they'd love to share with me, I would be very happy to chat with you guys. And again, please register for the show. Come out in person
Yep.
if you can. Join us online if you can't. FlightSimExpo.com.
There you go. Thank you all. This is a lot of fun. So thank you, Evan, for joining us. You were our first interviewee of our guest on the channel. So
I'm honored. Thank you.
I don't know if we'll do more of them in chat. You can let me know if you want to see more of these interviews. Thank you, Alexander, for your comment, and thank you, Not at Night, for your tuning in too. Okay, wow, that was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed that. FlightSimExpo coming up September. Get your tickets if you can go in person. Go in person. They're working on like a lot of safety guidelines. If you are stuck like me in lockdown right now because you've got 0 cases, then go online. Nice and simple. Thank you all. Hopefully you all enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. I'll see you all in the next stream, I reckon. I'll see you soon. Awesome.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Alright, that's good.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you. Thank you so much for having us and for all the support.